Hello everyone and welcome to episode 40 of my Guild Wars 2 Let's Play series. This episode is the final episode in Act 1 of the Guild Wars 2 personal story, and it's going to be very similar to last episode where we are going to be looking at a new profession and looking at a little bit more story that I want us to know going into the second act of the game, and this is the last bit of story that I want to look at. So let's go ahead and come into our character creation here, and the story that I'm wanting to look at is revolving around the human race, which is the first race that we played in this Let's Play series. I want to go back, remind ourselves of where we started in this Let's Play series, and explore a couple of the different options that we had, which I think are important and then also fun for us to look at. So let's go ahead and create a human, and then I will go ahead and create a female human because our first human was male, so we can explore this voice actress. And then coming into our profession selection, we have explored 7 out of 8 of the core professions. We're looking at Revenant later, and the 8th profession that we have left to look at is Mesmer. So today I'm obviously going to be looking at the Mesmer, and we will explore everything that there is to do with this profession. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of character creation, and here is where I landed with on this character. Going on to the next selection, we have the option that is very specific to the Mesmer profession, where a Mesmer's mask creates an image. I choose to look out from behind a phantasm of sorrow, a fanged dread, or a harlequin smile, and I think I'll go with the smile here. And then I'll go ahead and pick charm because I think that's kind of what I want to go with, like a Mesmer that kind of fits very well. And then we have our first human option here, where we were raised amongst either the nobility, the common folk, or in the streets. And then we picked this in the streets last episode. So today I want to look at the nobility because I believe it's really important. There's a couple like story beats that I really want us to explore that revolves around the nobility. But the common folk storyline is also really cool and might be the most played storyline in the game for a reason that I'll talk about in a little bit. But let's go ahead and select among the nobility, where we grew up among nobles, including my friend Lord Farron, who can trace their ancestry back to ancient kings. I received an excellent education, I'm well versed in courtly graces, and understand the responsibility that comes with privilege. Next, let's go ahead and pick our second story step here, where one of my biggest regrets is that I passed up an opportunity to perform in the circus. I never recovered my sister's body, or I never searched for my true parents. And when we played our human guardian, our biggest regret was that we never searched for our true parents. And today I want to look at the circus here, where it's actually a kind of interesting story, and it's a really fun story to look at, and it's a very nostalgic story for me because this is what I selected. When I created my first ever character in the game, a human engineer, I selected the circus and the nobility, so this is kind of like me replaying my first ever character in the game. But of course it was an engineer and not a Mesmer. But let's go ahead and select our goddess here, and I was kind of debating which one that I wanted to pick, and I was mostly debating between Balthazar and Lissa, and I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Lissa here because she is very similar to like Mesmers, who are like very illusion heavy, and Lissa is like a very illusion heavy based god. So let's go ahead and select her, and then let's go ahead and create a name for ourselves, which I think like I've done with all my second characters here. I kind of named it after the other character that we made. I'm going to go ahead and name my character Athos of Claypool. Claypool is the town in Queensdale that we have explored, and I like it quite a bit, so I think we can come from that town. But now with everything selected, let's go ahead and hop into the game, and I actually want to look at something at the very start here, where I'm going to go ahead and skip the cutscene here. Once it loads up, I'll press skip to end, and then we'll load in. And last episode we looked at the tomes of knowledge to be able to level up our characters, and I want to do that at the very start here because there's a very interesting kind of mechanic here, where I mentioned talking about the common folk like just a minute ago. In the Guild Wars 2 personal story, the chapter 1 personal story will reward you a black lion key once a week when you complete it. So a lot of people will do the first chapter of the personal story every week on like a brand new character. They'll make the character, they'll complete the story, they'll get the key, they'll put the key in their bank, and then they'll delete the character until next week when they'll make a new one and do it all again. And most people will pick the common folk human storyline because out of all the personal story steps in the game, the common folk has been agreed upon to be the fastest one to do. And there are basically kind of like two things you can do at the very start here to speed up your run. one of which involves Tomes of Knowledge, and another one involves basically skipping all the way to the end boss, where you can basically just ignore talking to anybody at the start here, and then you can come over to the garrison, and then you can run all the way past the garrison up the hill and go to the boss. The second thing I want to look at here is if we look at our map, there's not a waypoint available for us, but if you come into our inventory, I'm going to go ahead and pull out these Tomes of Knowledge, and then we can use one in order to level up to level 2. And now if we look at our map here, we have a waypoint that we can use, and we can waypoint straight out of the first mission here, and we don't have to do it at all. And I definitely slowed it down a little bit because I was talking about stuff, but we just go straight into the cutscene here at the end of the first mission, and I can skip it, and now we are out in the open road where I can level up a little bit, and then we can start talking about the Mesmer profession. So I have now leveled up to level 16, and we are over here in Claypool, and I think it's time we start looking at the Mesmer profession a little bit. And I have a few different weapons that I have that I want to look at, and I'm not going to look at every single weapons that Mesmers can use. We'll do that in the future as well. But let's go ahead and start off with the weapon that we started with, which is a sword. So we have our auto attack here, which is an auto attack chain, and it's pretty basic, just deals damage. It gives vulnerability to enemies, and our third attack here will actually remove boons from enemies, and it'll deal extra damage to any enemies that don't have any boons on them. So it is kind of nice when you are fighting enemies that have boons to be able to use a sword to get rid of those boons. And I just enabled a script burglar event right here because there was a chest there, and then I thought the chest would just give me stuff, but I forgot that that one is a script burglar one. So let's go ahead and chase after the script, and I failed that event, so that's a little embarrassing. But looking at our second skill here, we have Blurred Frenzy. Strike your foe with a flurry of strikes, distorting the space around you, making you evade attacks. So this is just a very nice skill here that would deal a ton of damage to any enemies, and while we use it, we won't be taking much damage from any enemies as well. But looking at our third skill here is a very cool skill called Illusionary Leap, and it is a special skill known as a clone skill, where we summon an illusion that leaps at your target, crippling them. After the initial leap, the clone will execute the Mind Slash Sword Chain, which is our auto attack right here. So I'll go ahead and find a new centaur here to use this on, but this basically ties into like the central mechanic related to Mesmers, which are clones and illusions. Which if we look right up here, we have 3 different skills right here, and we'll actually unlock one more, and then it changes a little bit depending on elite specializations. But basically this is the amount of illusions that we can have up, where when we use this skill, we will get one illusion that looks just like us, and it'll attack the enemy as we attack it as well. Of course, it deals significantly less damage than us, and then it also is much more limited, where it doesn't do a bunch of extra attacks like we can. But after we are out of combat, the illusion will go away, and we'll see that we have none of these dots filled in right now. But if we have any of these dots filled in, we can use these skills right here called Shatter skills, which basically, kind of like what it sounds like, we will shatter our illusion, and they'll deal a ton of damage to all the enemies around us. And depending on what shatter we want to use, it will do different things. So the first one here will just deal a bunch of damage to all of our enemies. This one here will deal a little bit of damage but apply confusion to our enemies. And then this one here will daze our enemies. And then we have another one which will deal damage and also give another like debuff. I kind of forget. We'll see once we unlock it. And then as I just said, these kind of change a little bit depending on what elite specializations we pick, but they become more and more powerful depending on how many clones you have active. So we have this one skill right here which gives us a clone, so this will give us 1 charge of this, and then we can use other skills as well to give us more clones. And then we can see with like just using the first one here as an example, if we have 1 clone, it will deal 54 damage. If we have 2 clones, it will deal 86 damage, and if we have 3 clones, it will deal 114 damage to up to 5 enemies that we fight. But let's go ahead and equip a torch that I picked up, and we can look at 2 more skills here, where we have the Prestige, disappear in a cloud of smoke, blinding nearby foes and losing conditions, reappear 3 seconds later, burning nearby foes. So using it against this wasp here, we can see that we go invisible, and then 3 seconds later we appear and we burn our foes, so just like the skill said. Our last skill here is Phantasmal Mage, which is a phantasm skill. Strike and burn nearby foes, create an illusion that releases a massive wave of fire that burns, confuses, and interrupts foes. So if we can use this, we can see that we summoned a phantasm right there, which is a very interesting kind of like variant of a normal Mesmer clone. So when we use our illusionary leap skill right here, we will summon a clone, which basically just does like the thing it says, where it'll do like the auto attack with the sword. But what a phantasm will do is it's going to do like a really big thing. So with the torch here, it'll unleash like the massive wave of fire, and then it will turn into a clone. And I believe the clone it will turn into depends on our main hand skill here. So if you just use this, we can see the phantasm spawns, and then it'll blow up, and then it summons a clone, and it does look like it is wielding my sword, and it is doing that like the mind slash auto attack chain, just like our clone does here. And then of course that clone can be used in order to use our shatters to empower them. And we don't need a clone up in order to use a shatter, by the way. It just makes it even more powerful. But coming back into weapons here, let's go ahead and look at Pistol, which is a very interesting weapon that Mesmers can use. So we have Phantasmal Duelist, fire multiple crippling bullets at your target and summon an illusion that unloads its pistols on your target. So let's go ahead and use this, and then we can see we did quite a bit of damage, and then we summon a Phantasm layer that is now just going to attack this wasp while we fight it as well. And then lastly, we have this skill here called Magic Bullet. Hit up to 4 fools with a single shot, inflicting confusion on each fool. In addition, the first target is stunned, the second is dazed, and the third is blinded. So really kind of powerful crowd control ability right here that we can use. And it just does like a massive stun there with like the first target that it hits. And then we can go ahead and finish off this Mola. But looking at our staff here, we have a very fun weapon set that doesn't do too much damage, but it's nice for like defense and like controlling here. So we have our auto attack here, which is bouncing orbit energy between foes and allies. The first hit applies torment, while subsequent hits to enemies apply confusion. Allies that the orb bounces to gain fury and might. So pretty basic, but it deals nice like condition damage to enemies and also buffs up our allies as well. Then we have a clone ability here called Phase Retreat. Teleport away from your target, summoning a clone that casts Winds of Chaos. So let's go ahead and attack this wasp here, and then we can go ahead and use that, and we see we get teleported back, and then we have the clone there as well. Our third skill here, which is a Phantasmal Warlock, summon illusions that deal damage and inflict vulnerability. So we can go ahead and use this, and then we see that the Phantasm spawns there. There's actually 2 of them, and then we just obliterated that molar right there. And then looking over here, we have Chaos Armor, blind and confuse nearby foes while you gain Chaos Aura. Chaos Aura grants you a random boon and inflicts your foes with a random condition whenever you are struck. So it's a nice like defensive skill here, which will give up boons, and also it'll basically be kind of like thorns from Minecraft, for example, where when they hit you, they get hit back with a condition. And then our last skill here is Chaos Storm. Create a magical storm at the target location that applies random conditions to foes and boons to allies. The first strike of the storm dazes foes. So it's a nice crowd control and another nice boon while applying condition stuff. And it's kind of nice to just sit in the circle that spawns there, where you can kind of be a little bit more protected as it will lash out against enemies. And the last weapon that I want to look at on the Mesmer right now is the Greatsword. So let's go ahead and equip this. And then the Greatsword, with basically every single profession that we've looked at it, is a melee weapon. Quite obviously, if you think of greatswords in like real life or other fantasy games, you normally use a greatsword to hit enemies, but with a Mesmer, it's a little bit different, where it is a ranged magical weapon. So we have our auto attack here, Spatial Surge, shoot a beam at your foe. The farther away they are, the more damage you deal. So we obviously want to be pretty far away from our enemy to maximize the damage here, and we can see that we basically just shoot out a beam of magical energy to our enemies, and it deals quite a bit of damage while we do so. And then next is Mirror Blade. Throw an illusionary blade that creates a clone at its first target, then bounces to enemies and allies, dealing less damage to foes per hit and granting might to allies. So just a basic kind of attack here that summons a nice clone and deals a little bit of damage that we can basically just use every now and then while we auto attack our enemies. Then we have Mind Stab. Stab an illusionary greatsword through the ground to cripple foes at your targeted location. So it's a nice big, just massive attack that we can do, and it's a ground target one, so we have to be careful where we put it down, because we want to make sure we put it down on our enemies and not somewhere randomly else where the enemy's not. Like, that was a little far away there. Then we have Phantasmal Berserker. Throw an illusionary greatsword at your foe, removing boons from struck enemies. Create a phantasm that whirls through foes. So it's another nice phantasm attack, and it just whirls through foes and then becomes a normal clone that will deal our auto attack to the enemy. And then lastly, we have illusionary wave, knock back foes with a wave of magical energy. So a basic kind of just like CC ability where we basically just knock any enemies back, deal a tiny bit of damage, and is also good defiance break against enemies that cannot be moved. But if you come into our hero panel here, we can see the specializations for the Mesmer is Domination, Dueling, Chaos, Inspiration, and Illusions, and we'll kind of look at those in the future. But I want to take a look at a few of the skills that we can use, so we can look at Signets, Mantras, Manipulations, Glamour, and Illusion. So Illusion is kind of similar to all of our clone abilities here, where basically we'll just summon a clone, and these will do like special things here. So like Mirror Images will summon 2 clones, and we'll also break stun, and also breaks enemy targeting, where they'll go and basically attack the illusions that spawn. Or we have Decoy here, which breaks stun, gives us stealth, and also summons an illusion. And then Signet is very basic, just like everything we've seen with Signets on every other profession, where when we don't use it, it has a passive ability, and then we could activate it for something big. So let's go ahead and look at Mantra, Manipulation, and Glamour. So Mantra is a skill set that is shared with at least one other profession that I know of, which is the Firebrand specialization for Guardians. But let's go ahead and train a couple of these, and then we can look at them, and then let's take a look at a couple of manipulations, which is pretty fun, and then let's go ahead and look at a couple of glamours, and I want to go ahead and get this glamour right there. And then let's go ahead and start looking at them. So we have our default heal skill here, Ether Feast, heal yourself, gain additional health for each active clone, pretty basic. If you come into here, we now have this Mirror skill, which is Manipulation, where we reflect projectiles and heal ourselves. So pretty basic there. And then if you come into here, we have Mantra Recovery, where this is a very special skill. Mantras are very special because you kind of have to charge them in order to use them, and it's a little different between Firebrand and Mesmer, and then it's changed over the years. But I believe in PvE, as a Mesmer, you have to charge them no matter what, and then once you have them charged, you can activate them. So we can either use one, and then that will recharge over time, or we can use it again, and it'll be like a little bit of a bigger attack, where it'll heal us more, and then we have to wait, and then we have to charge it again once the cooldown is done. So I think I'll go ahead and just use Mirror right now, or maybe Ether Feast because it's more healing. But looking at the other Mantra, Mantra Pain is pretty similar, but instead of it being a heal for us, we can use it on enemies, and it'll just apply pain to our enemies. So that obliterated that wasp right there, which is kind of fun. Looking at a manipulation, we have Blink here, which is teleport to a target location. The range is 1200, so this is like a very nice movement skill because we can basically just instantly teleport this far away from us, and it's just nice for moving around the world. And it's not super beneficial anymore because of the Raptor, but it is an incredibly powerful skill, especially in PvP, and then there's some uses in PvE, and then you see it in World versus World as well. But here we have Veil, which is kind of similar to Blink, where it's super useful in PvP and World vs. World, and it's not too useful anymore, but we can create a wall that grants stealth to you and your allies. So basically you can throw it down, and then you can run through it, and you will gain stealth every time you run through it. And it has a very long cooldown, 72 seconds. So let's go ahead and swap this out to look at Null Field, which creates a field of energy that rips boons from foes and cures conditions on allies. So pretty basic, straightforward, kind of just like a boon removal while also removing conditions from our allies. It's a nice like defensive skill to use in order to kind of like reset a fight a little bit. And then here we have Feedback, create a dome around your foes that reflects projectiles. So this is kind of another like defensive skill where we can basically just put it down, and then this is a giant reflect field where any projectiles inside can't go out and outside can't go in. So it's kind of nice to put around enemies that like shoot you, so it just reflects them. And then lastly, we have one of the most iconic skills for the Mesmer in the game, which is Portal, which is a super useful skill in like PvE, and you see it in PvP and World vs. World as well. But you see a lot of people that really want to help out other people will go ahead and play a Mesmer, and basically they can use Portal to help get people from one part of the map to another up to 5,000 units away, which is actually a pretty decent distance. It's kind of like 5 times the amount of distance as we saw with our Blink skill right there. But this is like incredibly relevant in like jumping puzzles, where people who don't really want to do jumping puzzle, either they don't enjoy them or they don't like them, they can rely on a Mesmer to have them be teleported to the end of the jumping puzzle, and then they will be able to complete it without much effort on their own part, but the effort of the Mesmer. So if you put it down on the ground right here, we see that it basically just sits there for 60 seconds, and then we have a new skill here, which is Portal Exeunt, which we can come like all the way over here, then we can put the portal down, and then we have 20 charges, which means basically 20 people can use the portal one time, or 10 people can use it twice if you're wanting to teleport a group somewhere and then have them teleport back really quickly, which we see in like one specific raid encounter where that is incredibly relevant. Portal, just really fun ability and super useful and pretty iconic for the Mesmer profession. But that is everything that I want to look at with the Mesmer right now, and of course we'll look at more in the future, but I want to go ahead and start exploring some of the human story that we haven't really touched on yet. So let's go ahead and open our mail right here, and then we have a letter from Lord Farron, who's basically our friend in the personal story, where we can basically meet up with him in Divinity's Reach, and we can see why he is insisting on meeting us. And Lord Farron is a pretty important character in like the entire Guild Wars 2 game, where he's never like the main character, but he's like a supporting character that shows up every now and then throughout basically the entire experience of Guild Wars 2. So it's kind of important that we know him, and again, he's not like the most important person, but he's there and he's relevant, and we see kind of like a story arc occur. So let's go ahead and meet this noble in Divinity's Reach.
Over here! The hero of Shaymore returns. Come and see how friends and neighbors alike have turned out to welcome you home.
A party, Farron? For me? Or is this just an excuse to get your friends together and see what's in my wine cupboard?
Nonsense! Heroes are always popular. These nice people simply insisted on congratulating you and celebrating your brave victory.
And you insisted on breaking out my finest food and drink for the occasion.
You deserve no less. Still, I can't take all the credit. Your household staff was most helpful, even eager to facilitate the process. I wish my servants loved me half as much. But then, I am lovable in other ways.
And the less said about that, the better. Now, wipe off that smirk and let's go enjoy my best roast duck and brandy.
So we kind of see a polar opposite compared to our other character who is on the streets, where as a noble, we basically have a lot of stuff available for us, a lot of resources, we have a lot of money, we have servants that cook for us and clean for us, which is very cool, and then we are friends with people who are just like us, who are other nobles who basically have a lot of wealth and power in Divinity's Reach.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the hero of Shaymore. So, hero, ready to be amazed?
So we have Wozmak the Wonderful right here. Let's go ahead and chat with him and tell him that we want to see the show that he has for us. So let's go ahead and observe.
Gather around, but not too close. My tricks are daring and dangerous. And now, prepare to be stunned right out of your shoes. Behold! Fire from my hands! Whoa! Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that one got away from me. Still, as far as tricks go, that one was well done. Do you have everything you need? Thank you. For this next trick, I shall dazzle your eyes. Behold, magenta-ish. Can I offer you something to drink? Come on, people, I'm working here. And now, some magicians conjure a single dove, but I shall summon an entire flock out of thin air. Behold!
May I offer you a drink?
Ah, my eyes! Somebody shoot them! Help! Oh, they're illusions. That's the life of a master magician, folks. Sometimes I even amaze myself. Now, prepare to witness a feat no other magician has ever performed
Would you care for an appetizer?
and lived. Watch carefully. I can only do this once. Do you have everything you need? Behold! Alakazam! Alakazoom! No, that's not it. Alakazap? It's definitely Alakazam. Can I offer you something to drink? Alakaboom?
May I offer
Well, it looks like he exploded there, but I'm sure he'll show up at some point. But let's go ahead and chat with Farron. I think I'm done with this party for now. And then we can see that we are just about to experience a little bit of storyline very similar to the other storyline that we explored, where we're just going to learn more about kind of like how human society works, where we have a bandit right here and we're going to deal with bandits and basically kind of like the corruption of politics in Divinity's Reach. So let's go ahead and fight back against the bandits here. And then after having defeated multiple bandits, we have this special one right here that we can go ahead and fight. Use my mantra against, and then all of our different skills right here. Shatter or clone against him, and then just bring him down to 0% health. And then we have Farron all the way up here that we can go ahead and free.
Thank you. I'm feeling much better now. Am I pleased to see you? Though if you wanted me to leave the party, a simple "begone, freeloader" would have sufficed.
I'll make a note of that. Any idea who these hooligans were, or what they wanted?
Not really. I did hear them discussing a farmhouse in Shaymore. They were going to lock me up there with the rest of their hostages.
Then I have more work to do. I can't save you and leave the others to rot. Bad form, you know.
Count me in. I may not be a centaur-killing berserker like you, but I can take care of myself. I'll meet you there.
But we see here this character, Lord Farron, is a little bit pompous and a little narcissistic, I guess you could say. He's very full of himself, but overall he's kind of like just a lovable character where you kind of feel bad for him when something bad happens and you're happy for him when something good is happening in his life. And I personally like his character a lot, and I am excited to interact with him more in the future. But as far as like this story chapter goes, it's pretty much the same thing that we explored on our human character here like 36 episodes ago. So I'm mostly just going to skip this part and go ahead and start the second chapter of the human personal story. So really quickly, we have a character here called Sin First Rai, which is not a super important character, but we do see him again every now and then, and he's basically a human trader, and right here we are going to help him get past the centaurs. Where as we escort him here, we can go ahead and look at the 4th shatter skill that I have unlocked here, and I can't believe that I forgot about what the skill is. It is distortion, where you gain distortion and destroy all of your clones, gaining additional distortion for each one shattered. What distortion is that you are immune to conditions and damage for however long that it lasts on you, and this is an incredibly powerful buff because it basically just makes you immune to a lot of attacks. And we see this skill here is basically able to overcome a lot of mechanics and different boss fights throughout the game, and you are basically just able to ignore some mechanics sometimes, and that's been fixed for like some boss fights, but of course there's some stuff where you can still use it, and basically we can use it right here and we are invulnerable. And it's very nice if you're like just about to die and you need like a little bit of extra time to live in order to do something. You can use this to be able to have that extra time. We are at the end of this story chapter here, and we have accused this minister of treason because he has committed treason, where basically he has a ministry guard working with the bandits to rob houses around Divinity's Reach, as we've seen here. And then right here we have Minister Caudicus, who's like the leader of the ministry, and then we are just going to deal with this situation here.
Hear ye, the trial of Minister Julius Zamen is hereby called to order. Legate Minister Caudicus presiding. Who stands for the prosecution?
I do. Your Honor, we have evidence proving Minister Zamen conspired against the citizens of Divinity's Reach. He abused his authority to commit thievery, murder, and treason. We will present incriminating documents and sworn testimony from respected members of the community, including the accused's own sister.
The prosecution seems to have prepared quite a compelling case. Minister Zamen, can you refute these dire accusations?
Refute? Why bother? My Lord Caudicus, in accordance with the most ancient tenets of Crichton law, I invoke my right to trial by combat.
This court accepts your invocation. By law and custom, you may choose a second to fight with you in the circle.
Thank you, Legate Minister. I choose my retainer, Eitel the Unlovable, as my second.
The prosecution must also nominate a principal and a second, or forfeit the case.
I will be the principal, Legate Minister. I'd like to request a short recess to select my second.
Granted. When the prosecution is ready to continue, this court will reconvene and the trial by combat will begin.
We can choose Captain Thackeray, Countess Anise, or Lord Farron, so let's go ahead and pick Lord Farron to be our second here.
We're ready to begin, Legate Minister. I've chosen my second.
An interesting choice. For the record, let it be known that this duel will continue until both members of one side surrender or are defeated. If Lord Zaman proves victorious, he is innocent. The case is thrown out and these charges against him may not be brought again. If you win, then Zaman is found guilty of this crime.
I understand.
When you're in position, the trial by combat shall proceed. Good luck to you all. May justice prevail.
So kind of an archaic tradition, but let's go ahead and fight them.
Kill them both. Let's be done with it.
I only did.
Victory is declared. According to the dictates of Crichton law, Minister Zaman is found guilty.
Minister Codicus does not look happy.
He doesn't like anything to infringe on the rights of ministers. Trial by combat took the judgment out of his hands.
Did it? How do you think Zaman knew about the ancient law in the first place? He's no historian.
You think Codicus advised Zaman about the clause?
If Zaman won the battle, he'd be declared innocent. No more investigation. Now he's guilty, but he's also dead. No loose ends. Never underestimate Minister Codicus.
At least we know the identity of Zaman's backer. Go and celebrate a well-earned victory. Anise and I will be in touch with you.
But now that we are done with that, let's go ahead and start the second chapter of the human personal story, which is a little bit more on the lighthearted side, because it is our regret of not having joined the carnival when we were younger, but we are about to learn that it is a little bit deeper and more serious than like the option gives off. So we have our first mission here, the Floating Griswold, where we can go ahead and talk to Logan Thackeray, and it looks like Codicus is here as well.
You're just in time. Minister Codicus says there's a child missing.
As part of my community outreach program, ministry officials treated a group of orphans to a day at the carnival. One of the boys wandered off, and now we can't find him. Poor little guy.
I can help search for him, Minister.
Good. I leave this in your hands, then. Since Captain Thackeray has such faith in you, so do I. I need to get back to the ministry. We'll talk again soon.
The boy's name is Garand. He's 10 years old and wearing a red shirt. I've got Seraph out searching too. Never seen Codicus so worried. Must be concerned for his political career.
I hope the boy's all right. I'll start by asking around at the carnival. Maybe someone saw him.
The circus has a performance every afternoon. If you head down there and talk to the entertainers, you might find someone who can tell us more.
And I think for most of the story step here, we're going to go ahead and just enjoy the story as it unfolds, and then I'm going to talk about it a little bit at the very end, with maybe a couple of intermissions here and there.
This is your idea of an elegant date? The penny shows at the carnival?
My darling, think of the excitement, the dulcet sounds of the streets. And in any case, I couldn't get a reservation at the Golden Flower.
This is going to be a long, cold night, Farron.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Carnival Gambard. I'm afraid our clown couldn't make it. He was feeling kind of funny. Instead, I have hand-selected 3 of our most impressive performers to entertain you. Stand back and prepare to be amazed.
I am Boris, the Beast, the strongest man in Tyria. I can break anything. I need volunteer. Any of you sturdy-looking men in audience care to come up here?
Me! Watch this, sweetie. That guy's a pushover compared to me.
You there! Mister, I'm so humble. Come up on this stage. This rock comes from a Deldrimor quarry. Only the finest dwarven tools can even chip this hardy stone. Go ahead, sir. Take this hammer and give it a whack. Ugh.
Wow, that's the real thing, all right.
Not even a mark. Better get some exercise, sonny boy. Now, witness an incomparable feat of strength.
Yeah.
With my sixth sense, I shall look into the future. Trust Madame Gilda, my puppets. Wait, I'm sensing something. A very powerful energy coming from someone in the audience. I sense a fine man, a man of wealth and culture.
She must be speaking about me. Yes, yes, I'm here. Lord Farron, at your service.
I see trouble in your love life. I see two women, like stars, balanced to either side.
Two? Oh, poopers. No, no, you must be mistaken. There's one. Only one.
You two-timing, dredge-faced weasel! I knew it!
Jasmina, darling, wait! It's all right! You don't even know her!
My sixth sense grows weary, and I must rest. Thank you all. If you wish to know your fortune, come by my tent later, and cross my palm with coin.
Keep your distance, please. The pernicious viper is one of the deadliest species in Tyria. It's 10 times more venomous than a cave spider. 20 times more aggressive than... Hey, Wrigley, get back here. Hey, that's not supposed to happen. Oh, no, Wrigley's gone rogue. Help! Someone help! He'll kill us all. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, all part of the act, folks. Just one of Madame Gilda's illusions. Yes, just an illusion. Poor Wrigley.
That's all, folks. Thank you for visiting the Carnival Gambad. Be sure to purchase our newest souvenir, the Floating Griswirl. A toy to amaze your friends and baffle your enemies. Until next we meet, my beloved audience, farewell.
God's blessings! Your aura reveals much about you. Tell Madame Gilda what it is you are seeking.
I'm looking for a lost boy who may have come this way. He's about 10, wearing a red shirt. Have you seen any unattended children?
I have not, but boys love snakes and snails and scaly drake tails. I'd talk to the snake charmer if I were you.
Thank you. I'll do that.
I see it. I see that you will find the child. You will, however, also uncover startling secrets. Beware the Griswirl!
Pardon me. I'm looking for a boy in a red shirt. He strayed from his group and hasn't returned. I'm hoping he came this way.
I saw a boy. He asked if I'd ever met a snake I couldn't tame. I told him that snakes just need love, like everybody else.
Interesting. But did you see where the kid went?
Yeah, he called me a weirdo and went to gawk at Boris the Strongman.
Hey, Skinny! Come test your strength against Boris! Boris is daring you!
No time for that. I'm looking for a boy in a red shirt. I'm told he came this way. Have you seen him?
Yes, Boris has seen boy. He asked how to build bigger muscles. Boris told him he must work hard. He said he'd rather have a Griswirl and went to the stables.
Griswirl? That's the second time I've heard that word. What is it?
Boris does not know. Boris suspects, but Boris does not speak until he is certain. Go to the stables. You will see for yourself.
Hey, Rube. Grizz.
Griswirl. Griswirl. Griswirl.
Excuse me. I'm looking for a lost child, a little boy, around 10 years old in a red shirt. His name's Garand.
No entry. Employees only. Unauthorized access. Kill the intruder.
What? Look, Slackjaw, I don't want any trouble. Stay away from me.
Kill the intruder. Hey, Rube! Hey, Rube!
So a very interesting development there where we see that some people at the carnival have been hypnotized by an item known as the floating Griswirl. And if you remember with the Ashura personal story, the floating Griswirl is one of the inventions of the Inquest Anteo that we see at the very start of the story, just like in the last episode we saw it mentioned there. And depending on how far apart the Assuran Chapter 1 personal story and the Human Chapter 2 personal story are, we see that the floating Griswirl has made its way to Divinity's Reach and to the carnival here, and now that is something that we are having to deal with.
There's something rotten at that carnival. I couldn't find the boy, but I believe the workers know something. I was ambushed by a pack of glassy-eyed carnies.
Carnies don't trust outsiders. Maybe you should go undercover. There's a carnival training camp near Beetleton. If you can get hired, they'll be more likely to talk freely to you.
Join the carnival? You have no idea how long I've been waiting to hear that. I'm in.
I'll be just outside the carny camp with a squad of Seraph. Signal when you learn something, or if you need help.
Better be careful around here, stranger. Lots of ways for a snooper to get hurt. Accidentally, I mean. What do you want?
I want to join the carnival. Can you give me my big break? I just need the opportunity to show off my talents.
What have we here? Ladies and gentlemen, it's audition time. Winners get applause, losers get rotten fruit. Either way, it'll be a show worth watching.
How fun. This darling optimist is being granted a grand solipsism. Let's see those exhibition skills.
Wait, the mime talks?
Of course. He's a mime, not a mute. Step right up. All you have to do is pass the magic trine. 3 circus challenges.
The mime, the clown, and I will test your talent. Once we see what you can do, we'll know what to do with you. Let the show begin!
Ha! Good one. There's funny and there's clown funny. You qualify.
Panache! I am mightily impressed.
Your body ripples like a river over solid rock. Your wits can upstage a Mesmer. You stand at the precipice of stardom. Your talent will astound audiences. Millions will lavish you with adulation.
He speaks truth. You passed all 3 tests with flying colors. You'll be amazing. And you even look great in tight pants.
Just wait until the ringmaster gets a load of you. He's always looking for fresh talent.
The ringmaster? Is he the boss? When do I get to meet him?
Patience, earnest neophyte. The ringmaster returns this evening with toys from Uzulan's workshop, including a fresh batch of Griswirls.
Relax. You're one of us now, so you have free run of the place. Just stay out of the warehouse. The ringmaster doesn't like anyone going in there without permission.
Overstayed your welcome, Rube.
Oh, my head. What just happened?
Where am I? I don't like it here. I want to go home.
Logan, I found the boy. He's fine, physically, but something has affected his mind. It has something to do with a weird toy. The carnies know more than they're letting on.
Hand it over, Garand. As for you, Carney, tell me what's going on here, or you'll spend the rest of your life in a cell for kidnapping this boy.
When you put it like that, we needed kids to test Uzulan's Griswirls. And, if you want to find the ringmaster, there's a meeting tonight for new recruits. That's all I know.
It's a start. Stick around, you clown. I mean, yeah.
So this next story mission here is kind of cool because we see Uzalon, who is a relatively important character who has an impact on Guild Wars 2, but this area up here is actually an area where you cannot access it in the open world, and you can only access it, I believe, at least in this story mission. So it is a special opportunity to see a very specific and kind of hidden part of Tyria.
This is the path to Uzalon's workshop. From here on in, things are likely to get weird.
Come out, Uzalon! You can't hide in that talking box forever!
I've spotted the enemy.
Ow! Watch it!
All
that
right,
thing's
Mr.
live!
High and mighty inventor.
Burns.
I'm going to prove that your brains are no match for my bombs.
What? With that tiny little firecracker? Oh, don't make me laugh.
Tiny? This is my biggest cannonball. It even explodes on command. All I have to say is, bomb, go boom.
Intruders detected. Activating birthday entertainment protocols.
You've activated the Uzatron 7000. We're all dead, doomed by my own genius. How poetic.
All right, we freed you. Now tell us about the Griswirls.
The Griswirls temporarily render the weak-willed susceptible to suggestion. They make any party 33% more fun. The ringmaster loved it. He was very complimentary at first.
We think the ringmaster is planning something big.
I'm not surprised. He asked many questions about increasing the Griswirl's power and range. He wanted the schematics, but I refused on principle.
Could he modify the Griswirls you made? Maybe use a super-powered version to affect a large group of people?
Yes, he's clever enough to pull that off, and if that's his plan, he'll probably do it at the circus's next big show, when his audience will be as vast as possible.
Great Kunir, he could incite a full-scale riot. The Seraph would have to respond with force. It'd be a bloodbath. We've got to stop him.
We live for applause, ladies and gentlemen. It's been our pleasure to entertain you.
This is the end of the show, but there's still time for one final performance.
Turn your eyes to the ringmaster, puppets. Witness his finest moment.
Well done! I must say, good show.
And now, ladies and gents, the highlight of our show, the big finale. Please turn your attention to the floating Griswirl at center stage. Watch it go round and round. That which goes up must eventually come down. Queen Jenna's Kryta has had it all. Now it and she must tumble and fall.
Ringmaster! By my authority, I order you to desist. You're under arrest for treason. How dare you threaten the Queen?
Oh, look, it's Captain Thackeray. Don't you like my fascinating Griswirl? Take a closer look.
Avert your eyes, everyone! Don't look at the Griswirl! He's trying to hypnotize you! Look away!
Spoil sports. I'd have let you choke the life out of Queen Jenna, Logan. Just like she's suffocating Kryta. Think of it, Captain. Your hands crushing her throat.
Logan, don't let him get to you. He's trying to control your mind. Keep it together, and we can stop him.
Rise up, my puppets. Before we can cleanse the city of its monstrous queen, we must first crush the monsters in our midst. Get them!
The Ringmaster nearly succeeded in spreading chaos throughout the city. Despicable traitor. I'm glad he's dead.
The Queen is safe for now. I find it hard to believe this was one man's political statement, though. Who would have benefited most if he'd succeeded?
Queen Jenna has no heirs. If the Ringmaster's mob had killed her, the Ministry would have taken rulership of Kryta. With all we've seen lately, I'm convinced that...
It's a member of the Ministry. I came to the same conclusion, and the next time he makes a mistake, we'll be ready.
Well said. If I see anything suspicious, I'll let you know. Until then, may Dwayna guide your path.
And now, that is everything that I wanted to explore in this episode. I think this has been a pretty long episode, so I'm probably going to call it good here. But we explored the first 2 chapters of the human personal story here from the perspective of a noble and the perspective of someone whose biggest regret was not going to the carnival. And we learned a lot of stuff this episode, meeting new characters like Uzalon, the Ringmaster, Minister Codicus, Lord Farron, and we also learned a little bit more about kind of how corrupt the ministry is and the issues of human politics here in Kryda. And now I think with this episode and the last 2 episodes, as well as all the ones before it, I believe we have gotten a good look at everything that is available for us at the start of Guild Wars 2 in the first act of the personal story. And starting next episode, we are going to go ahead and start Act 2 of the Guild Wars 2 personal story, and we'll begin looking at all the zones and all the stories and looking at more of what the game Guild Wars 2 has to offer moving forward. But I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Remember to drink some water, check your posture, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time in the world of Tyria. Goodbye.